Okay. So here we are again, another Thursday talk, PolyUrbWaters Project Thursday talk. This time brought to you from myself, Adrian Hodson, and I'm an urban planner and researcher with the Technical University of Berlin in the PolyUrbWaters project. And today we have a very special guest speaker from Hamburg Water. Her name is Sonja Schlipf. And I would like to quickly hand over to her. But before I do so, I understand that we have some guests from Southeast Asia, maybe border Indonesia. Mr. David Dietz would like to introduce just quickly.
Yes, thank you very much. Hi, and a very warm welcome from my side as well. I'm David. I'm based in Yogyakarta, Indonesia. In Sleman, actually, in particular, a regency in the Jogja province. I like to say shortly a warm welcome to our partner, Ong Phibol from the Ministry of Public Works and Transport in Cambodia. We've been working for several years now, also in the PolyUrbWater project, but also in other projects in Cambodia, always a very loyal and constructive partner in our project cooperation. And a warm welcome, Selamat Sore, Pak Bobby from Bapeda, the planning agency in Sleman Regency. The city of Sleman is here where we have, which is our focal location, one of the three focal locations of the PolyUrbWater project. So I'm very happy to have, that we have you with us today. Excited to hear the presentation, excited to hear the discussion, and hand over back to Adrian. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, David, and thank you, and a warm welcome from all of us. As I said before we hand over to Sonja, I'm just going to give a short introduction of the talk today from Hamburg Wasser. The name of the talk is Stormwater Management in Hamburg, Shifting to a New Approach in Urban Water Management and Urban Management. And basically, in order to address the increasing accumulation of stormwater events, droughts and hot spells, Hamburg Water and the Hamburg Environmental Authority launched the collaborative process of rainwater infrastructure adaptation. The name is RISA, the acronym. Hence, the principle of water-sensitive urban design and becoming more and more important. It integrates the natural water cycle in every stage of urban development by retention, evapotranspiration, and infiltration. Since Hamburg Water is a growing city, land is lacking, and the implementation of sponge elements is becoming important. Therefore, multifunctional uses are necessary to implement them. A multi-stakeholder approach and cross-sectoral integration at city level is needed. So short introduction for Sonja. And I would like very much to welcome her again, very warmly from us all. And we very much look forward to your discussion to your presentation. And after the presentation, we will have a discussion. Before we do that, Sonja, we would like our project manager of PolyUrbWaters, Mr. Bernd Gutterer, to give us a brief update on the project. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you and to be with you again. Today we address a main topic of the project PolyUrbWaters. We are just carrying out baseline studies in our partner cities in Samnur, Laos, and Sleman, Indonesia. We will do it from January onwards in Kratie, Cambodia. And here we see the potential and the need of an integrated approach to say, okay, this is urban development, but what is very strongly needed to think water management, urban water management in the context, yeah, of cooperation between different sectors, yeah, to overcome this isolation of wastewater management, water management, stormwater management, especially in the context now climate change. And here, what we are doing today, and this is the approach of PolyUrbWaters, yeah, to localize SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, yeah, but as well to facilitate a dialogue between different stakeholders, partners, yeah, institutions. What are their experiences, yeah? And this is in the context we are just building up this network between Southeast Asia and Germany and Europe. And Hamburg Wasser is one of our main partners. And I'm very happy and that Mrs. Schlipf is with us. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to a very valuable input. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bernd. So before handing over to Dr. Schlipf, one more remark. At the end of the presentation, we will have a discussion. So please hold your questions and discussion points for the end of the Dr. Schlipf's presentation. So I will hand over to Dr. Schlipf to introduce herself and start the presentation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you too. I will thank you for the invitation. So good morning and good afternoon to everyone. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the talk and to your feedback and to the discussions and how the combination and the, yeah, what main things we do have in common between the Hamburg and the Asian part, and what are the challenges maybe in Asia and the challenges we do have in Hamburg as well. So my name is Sonja Schlipf. I'm working for Hamburg Wasser since January 2020. And before this, I worked for about 15 years in the fields of climate change adaptation and urban planning and research and practically on the regional and the urban level. I think this might be enough for you now to know what's my background. And now I'm starting the presentation, and I hope everything works out well. So let's see. One moment. I will talk about, now what do we have now? Are you still here?
Yes, we are here, and we can see your full screen at the moment.
Yeah, that's perfect, but I cannot see you anymore. No. It's always the same.
There we are. That's it. Yeah.
Here we are. Yeah, so we're starting now. Yeah, I'd like to talk about stormwater management in Hamburg and what we are doing we have done in the last, almost 10 years, and what we are going to do. So first of all, I'd like to talk about the challenges of water and sanitation systems in Hamburg, the planning of adaptation measures, the implementation of those measures, and the cross-sectoral integration on city level. And then I would like to give an outlook what is coming in the next years. So to introduce our company, Hamburg Wasser is a combined company which deals with water supply and wastewater. We also have, until the end of the year, an energy part which provides energy to the city by regenerative energies. They are leaving us, but yeah, now they are still with us. So Hamburg has a long history of stormwater management and drainage system. It has one of the oldest drainage system in Europe since I think 1848 or something like that, with William Lindley. It was implemented a combined sewer system, and it was added with a separated sewage system here in the outskirts. The yellow part is the combined sewage system. And we have different stormwater catchment areas. So what does it mean for us? We have a lot of stormwater challenges. Is this a part of the impacts of climate change? The increase of cloudbursts we are also recognizing here in Hamburg. This is one example how it could look like. In June 2011, we have this example in one of the central city parts, and therefore we are trying to start to find solutions to reduce these events and reduce the high damages that this kind of events will cause. So the challenges of stormwater management or for the water and the sanitation and systems in Hamburg are not only climate change, they are always also the growing city. So we have an increasing soil ceiling. You see here down on these pictures, the increasing sealing process in Hamburg. So until 2012, you can see all the gray areas are now settlements and almost sealed. And we are hoping that it's not going to increase too much. On the other hand, we have a long sewage system which needs to be maintained and performed, and this is a challenge as well. And on top of this, there's climate change with higher temperatures, heat waves, and droughts. In addition to that, we have high tides on the River Elbe in Hamburg, and this means that we have restrictions for the free drainage into the River Elbe if there's a high tide, for example. And then the probability of heavy rainfalls is increasing. This is what we need to deal with. And Hamburg started with that in the early 90s to reduce the discharge into the rivers by kind of a relief program. That means that we have built interceptive sewer systems underneath the existing sewer systems to reduce the overflow into the river and to improve the water quality of the rivers all over the city. So the last program was finished in 2019 with the inner city relief program, and we have a really good improvement of the water quality. So sometimes people are now swimming in the River Alster, which is one of the main rivers here in the city. And that wasn't possible 20 years ago, I think. That's a good success. So another program which was started in 2009 was the project RISA, RainWaterInfrastructureAdaptation, and it's the idea to develop in Hamburg Hamburg as a water-sensitive city. It's a cooperation between the environmental agency and Hamburg Weather, and many stakeholders are involved with this, like the district, the municipalities in Hamburg, the different districts, the urban planners, the traffic planners, people which are dealing with landscapes, for example, and the goals are to mitigate the floods and do prevention measures in the rivers, to protect the waters in the city, and to gain a near natural water balance. To meet this, we are trying to have a transformation of the urban water management. This means that we are trying to keep the robust sewage and drainage system within Hamburg, as well as to disconnect many surfaces as possible with corporations. For example, this is a picture where a school was disconnected to our sewage systems, and we have tried to increase the infiltration rate underneath playground elements. Then we have some different multifunctional plans for rainwater treatment and stormwater management, but we also have we are lucky that we have a redundant water supply. So we have different, so our fresh water is coming from the groundwater from different parts of the city, and we have we can, this is very helpful for us, that because they support each other. And on the other hand, we are trying to implement, or we have one plant and one settlement where we are trying to close the different water cycles, like gray water cycles, black water cycles, but also rainwater cycles. So what would the future look like in Hamburg? What is our main image like light build or strategy for Hamburg to gain this sponge city? Here on this picture, you see different examples how to do this. So the aim is to reduce the runoff, the rainwater, to increase the evaporation and the infiltration rate within the city. And here you can see different examples. For example, here on the first part, retention, green roofs where rainwater can retain on the rooftop. So here on a slot to keep the water here within some gutters, for example, to improve or to increase the rate of green roofs, to keep the water within the streets like tree rigoles. I will show you some pictures later. So here's some images what this means in detail. This means to transform the streets, to transform the buildings, but also to think about urban planning and the urban development as a whole picture, to combine water management with landscape architecture and urban design. This is what we are doing now, and we are talking to the urban authority how to do this. This means to gain this, we need a multi-stakeholder approach. We are cooperating with different stakeholders in the city, like the State Ministry of Urban Development, the State Ministry of or the Environmental Agency, the Ministry of Transport and Innovation. The Hamburg Wasser is one stakeholder, for example, but we are also talking and working together with research in the university within the city to find some new ideas. And we have the district authorities also on the table with different programs. The parts of RISA, or how the different development parts are these 4 steps I will show you now. So we are talking about the further development of the different strategies in Hamburg. We are creating databases for planning and maps. We are communicating via different channels like our website, brochures, information tools. And we have to have pilot projects to see how we could implement it everywhere and all over Hamburg. So first, I would like to show you what we are having about the information system as planning basis for for measuring and warning systems and communication. So in the first part of the RISA project, we started with several maps which have information on topography, drainage systems, the infiltration potential, construction geology, and groundwater table. And one of the newest one is a stormwater map, which shows where are the low-lying areas in the city, and where might be some problems with during a stormwater event. And we do have the stormwater index, which is fed by different, I think, 34 water events. So we have a huge image which shows more or less in real time where heavy rainfalls happened, and therefore there is an index which shows the different levels of stormwater events. So the first one, or the first two parts, are stormwater events which can be dealt with, our sewer system is able to deal with. And with the increasing numbers, you can see that there are some extreme events too, which show these maps our sewage system is not able to deal with. And then, yeah, the people themselves need to protect, and we need to cooperate with the city and the city urban authorities for that. I want to give you a small closer look to the stormwater management, so you can see how it looks like. It's an information which is available for everyone in the city, for you too, so you can just click this link and have a look on it. There are several informations on this website. It's meant to inform the property owners about their situation on their slot, but it's also an information for urban planners and traffic planners how to improve the streetscape, for example, and the urban design and the urban spaces, to keep the water where it is and to reduce these water flows within the city. It's a topographic map. It's not a dimensional a simulation of heavy rainfall events, so it's not a dynamic one. Another map which is very helpful is a map on the infiltration potential. Here you can see it's based on the groundwater level and the soil combination underneath the city. So it's helpful to see where we can reduce this ceiling, and where we can have the possibility to use the infiltration of rainwater, for example, all over the city. To gain these goals, we have different cooperations, for example, with schools. We try to disconnect the schools, or we are trying, and we're supporting the schools authority, which is to reduce the connection to our sewer system with different examples. Sometimes we have workshops with pupils that they have a look on their schoolyards, how to change the design of the schoolyard to improve the situation there, and to find places where the water can be catched on schoolyards themselves, maybe on the parking lots, but as well to have some spaces where water can kept all over the area. Another example is the stormwater playground in Hamburg, Neugraben-Fischbeck. It's a good example which shows how cooperation can work. So we have several floodings nearby a school, or we had several floodings nearby a school there, and the stormwater retention basin was too small, and we had no space to find another place. So we looked around the area, and we found this playground, and we started a cooperation with the planning authorities to keep the water of heavy rainfalls and cloudbursts on this playground. And here you can see how it looks during dry weather and cloudburst. So the water is kept there in these low-lying areas. We have some wriggles there to improve the infiltration. And yeah, the water drains as well to a protected well area and contributes there to a groundwater recharge too. Another, yeah, almost new example is the sporting facility at the Heinkling Stadion. There we had an interesting situation. It was a hotspot for flooding. We needed to increase this drainage capacity in the higher parts here, because our sewer system was capable to catch all the water. There was a flooding of a subway station as well, and we had the problem that the hydraulic situation of this river here wasn't able to keep the stormwater in case of a heavy rainfall. So we needed to keep this water here in the upper areas. And for coincidence, this sporting facility needed to be refurbed, and we started to talk to the authority which was in charge of the refurbishment of this area, and we gained, or we had the ability to install here a system to retain the water on the higher area. So we have here a tank which keeps the sands and the bigger parts which comes from the streets here in this tank, and then the water flows down here to the riggers and will be kept and will be infiltrated into the ground. And if there are heavier rainfalls, then the water can also be kept on the lower part of the sports field. So it's quite a success now, and I think it already kept some heavy rainfalls, and it keeps 500,000 liters. This is the capacity we do have. We also are working on, we are contributing to some research projects. For example, here the Blue-Green Streets project, which is led by the Hafen City University in Hamburg and deals with multifunctional streetscape design and urban neighborhoods. It's founded by the Federal Ministry of Education and Science, and is part of the initiative of the future cities in Germany. So one example I want to show is how they deal or trying to work within the streetscape. So they are trying to implement some stormwater tree pits in Hamburg, where the stormwater can be kept in these tree pits to give the water to the trees, but also to infiltrate it into the ground. So this is an example in Hamburg Harburg, which shows that the water is kept on the rooftops, will lead to a water reservoir here. There's an overflow to our rainwater drainage system too, and then it will be led into the tree to increase the evaporation and the cooling to provide the tree with water, and that increases the evaporation rate and the cooling effect within the streets, and it helps to irrigate the tree. So here you can see the picture of the now installed trees. They are still a little bit small, but yeah, it's a possibility to improve the situation within the city. Another example are retention green roofs. Like here, it's built on a housing I don't know the word now, but it doesn't matter. So it's built on different houses. They have different examples like extensive and intensive green roofs to compare them. They have these chokes which keeps on the retention green roofs which keeps the rainwater on the roof, and they measure the flow from the roof and see how much water can be kept there. Here you see some pictures of the construction phase, and you can see here the different examples of the green roof. I think this one is the usual roof we usually have without. No, this is the precipitation, and here you can see how much water runs through the from the green roofs during an extreme event. And the best case is this lower part where we do have a high rate of green roof retention on there, and you see that only 1.17 or only 17% runoff is happening during a heavy rainfall event. So where do we stand now? We started in the early 90s with a relief program of the sewer construction. In 2009, we started with a RISA project as a community task, a common task all over the city. A lot of information basis was developed. There is a structural plan which is kind of a strategy for Hamburg now to implement, or which is now be implemented by different stakeholders, and which contains or combines different measures how to do this. We have implemented many pilot projects all over the city. I have shown you now only a few examples, and now the process started to have a new push via the climate plan of Hamburg, of the Free City of Hamburg. This means this abbreviation. There we have now the politicians and the Senate now are having this as a political goal to go for a water-wise city and to develop it further and have more strategic instruments to implement it. And with this, we started a closer cooperation between the environmental agency and Hamburg Wasser to be more efficient and to realize these this strategy and these ideas of stormwater management, and therefore we're going to the future. So sponge city as a concept is a concept for existing and new buildings. That means we have to integrate it in the city, in the landscape planning. It's not only stormwater management, it's more, because it has to be part of all parts of our planning systems, and it needs to have more blue and green in the city to do this. Now I'd like to come to the conclusion and summarize a little bit. So the climate change and the further urbanization needs or asks for a new solution in stormwater management. It means that we have to think about multifunctional areas, because in Hamburg we have the problem that there's not so much space to keep the water all over the city, but it needs to be done. So our cities need to be adapted towards the sponge city concept to reduce the direct runoff of the rainwater, to retain and the stormwater, to increase the infiltration wherever we can, and to increase the evaporation, and to implement the blue-green infrastructure on the roof, on the plot, on the street, in the neighborhoods, and all over the city. So we need to reduce and mitigate the risks via multifunctional uses. It's not possible to just plant a sewer system plant. It's needed to be integrated in different facilities. And we need more examples to continue with this. Yeah, thank you very much. I hope it was interesting for you, and I'm looking forward to your questions and to the discussion and to the common ideas we maybe do have in Southeast Asia and Hamburg. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Schlipf.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Very, very impressive.
Should I stop the presentation now, or?
Well, you're welcome to leave it there for us to ponder and look upon at the summary, I think.
Okay.
But just quickly before we go into the discussion, I'm sure there's many questions coming. I think it was a very useful and insightful, with many takeaways, presentation of the different solutions, technical solutions that are out there, the integrated technical solutions in urban water management, the management approach, this cooperative sort of planning and design approach, as well as it seems to me that it's a very progressive step-by-step approach. You mentioned that it began in the 90s, and up until now it's still sort of going step by step, and many more examples are needed, but we already have or you already have many experiences and learnings, and I guess that will be interesting to hear more about as well. What was working very well and very valued by the different, not just the different partners, but the community. I also saw high potential for, I guess, increasing water literacy in the population with the different approaches at the schools, I guess, having them involved in the projects that you're doing, and also this the internet sites that are publicly open and available for people to learn about their own individual water management dynamic on their own plots, or at least in their neighborhoods. So I found it very fascinating and very useful and very applicable. I think also this idea of what to do in areas where there's a lack of space, and to create this multifunctional dynamic sort of areas in terms of water management and land use. I think it's also applicable for some of the areas, a lot of the areas that we're looking at in the PolyUrban Waters project. So thank you very much. It's really very clear and useful, and images and information, so many takeaways. And I know that it will be possible to have this presentation online for everyone to download. Yeah, I look forward to downloading it after the presentation. So thank you very much. And I guess now we can open up to the discussion and questions. So I will open the floor and let the discussion begin. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I think we can see already David from Borda, Indonesia, having his hand raised. Maybe David, you start.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, also many thanks, Dr. Schlipf, from my side. Really interesting, very, very relevant to our work here in the field, well, in our partner countries and with our partner municipalities. I go straight into the question. It's a little bit provocative, but not really meant in a provocative way. Hamburg Water is like it's a private utility, right? So and what is, or private public, but So what do you gain from getting involved in this? And this is not meant like to justify. I think it's a very good cause, of course, and we all know we want to make our cities more safe and protected. But from the background of this utility, I ask this because, of course, we work with municipal departments. We work also with private companies, water supply companies, etc. How do we get them involved? And we have our ways, but I ask this in this sense, is this also interesting to protect your infrastructure, for example? Is it in order to guarantee the operational performance of your services, of the infrastructure eventually? Is there any kind of assessment in this way? Maybe there don't need to be any economic and any numbers now, financial figures, but is there any idea to say, well, we have realized we lose that much, or we have realized that we really underperform if we don't get this issue sorted out? So I think this was one of the questions. And the second one would be, are there particular results from individual pilot interventions where you say we have looked at one area, we have understood the problem before, maybe, for example, with the sports facilities, there were this kind of flooding events, this long and that severe. And after the intervention, we have a reduction to this extent, or is this still ongoing? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the questions. I think I will start with the sports facility. So we do have a success there. So the sports facility is now built, and we see that the water is being kept in these rigors underneath the sports field. And it works, so we are happy about that. And if you have had a look on the playground, it's the same. And the playground is a quite old example. Another example, which I haven't shown now, was there were several flooding events on the street, and we had the possibility to implement a path over a private plot into a park to retain stormwater within the park but it happens only a few times a year or less. But it works, so the street isn't flooded anymore. It's sometimes there are some slight small changes to do so. We just changed the level of the street and the design of the path, and then the water was able to flow to the right place. So sometimes there are just easy solutions to do this, and there we see it works, and it works just via changing some small things we haven't thought about them before. But we do need the cooperation with several stakeholders, and we always have agreements with the privates and the public authorities to do that, because it's not possible to do this by law, actually. So we don't have the law for this, but we can have some agreements with different stakeholders. And why Hamburg Wasser is doing this, I think, yeah, Hamburg Wasser and this part of the water management was formerly a public authority or part of the ministries and the authorities. Now it's not a real private company, it's a public company. So we have the task to protect the city from stormwaters and to clean the water and so on, and no, I'm missing the English words, but I think it's not that not the problem. But we have a huge infrastructure which needs to be maintained too, and the city is growing, so our infrastructure is growing too. And I think this is a point and an issue as well, that we have to think about systems for not growing this robust gray infrastructure, and to edit and combine it with blue and green elements which are on a higher level on the surface, and to keep the water where it is. And I think this is this is one of the Selbstverständnis. What is the word?
Self-understood.
Yeah,
Obvious.
Hamburg Wasser understands itself as a provider of every part of the water cycle. So, and what many water companies in other cities too, for example, in Berlin or Frankfurt, have recognized in the last 10 or 20 years is that we have to close the water cycle as soon as possible. So we have to keep the water balance within the city, because it's not efficient and it's not ecological to let the water run out of the city, because we need these resources within the city. And there's almost, I think, a shift of mind now in Germany to think about rainwater as a resource, not as something that has to or people have to be protected by. So I think, yeah, maybe this is hopefully a good answer to your question.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. No, definitely. I think for us, it's still sometimes a long way when we speak, especially to water companies or water supply companies, and to get this understanding of saying, okay, the water cycle, rainwater, groundwater, how's that connection? How's that connected to you or to the company being able to provide in the long term, still provide quality water to the customers, and get them into this idea that it's not an additional task, but it's something to do in order to be operative for the future also. So thank you for the examples.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I mean, it becomes more and more evident, this idea of the city as its own catchment, and you know, the resource of rainwater, and I think it's great that we sort of hear that from many different places now. Mr. Dietrich.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks a lot, Ms. Schlipf. Great talk, especially since I'm here sitting in Hamburg, and I know much about the city, but I was not so aware of all your activities.
Okay.
I'll come to my question. RISA, as I know, is quite popular. It has been presented at least, but I guess also cited from other cities in Germany or even within Europe. So what are your activities in terms of multiplying it, and where did it reach so far?
What do you mean with multiplying?
I thought even to remember that RISA was copied or adapted by another city. So the whole project or strategy implemented like in a similar way.
Yeah, I don't know if it was copied somewhere. Maybe it was adapted. So we have some examples. For example, in Berlin, we have the Emscher Genossenschaft in North Rhine-Westphalia, for example, which has similar ideas with how it's called. No, I don't remember the name. We have in Amsterdam, Rainproof Amsterdam, which has some similar ideas, or the Rainwater Agency in Berlin, which works similarly. So yeah, and we have some exchange. So we are talking between each other and have a look how it works. So there, North Rhine-Westphalia, there are several examples which work like us, and in smaller cities too. Yeah, there are some networks. But yeah, I really don't know where it was copied.
Maybe copied was the wrong term, but I thought to remember from an earlier presentation that it has been pretty much adapted, and I thought was also consulted by Hamburg Water back then, so that it was not taken by any chance, but more like handed over and adapted.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, never mind.
Maybe you need to talk to my colleague then, who is more in the international part.
Yeah, it does seem like there's a high potential to be replicated, and parts taken over, and I certainly think that that's happening. Maybe not a program from what I understand and comparing with other programs, but certainly there are different parts that seem to be very
Yeah.
a high potential for to be replicated. Jessica.
Hi, good morning, and thanks, Sonja, for your presentation. I have 3 questions. The first one is, what are the criteria that you use to choose the pilot projects places? As I understood, they are mostly public places, right? And the second one is based on that. If they're mostly public spaces, how did you can this public work investments promote comprehensive community-focused outcomes that can address stormwater management issues? And the third one is about how did you provide opportunities to the important stakeholders to get involved when you propose this kind of investments or implementation schedules. And so how did you manage to have them all on board and to have their feedback?
Okay, the criteria, there are different criteria. Sometimes people ask or they do have their own idea and they come to us and we are talking about that, and then we find some solutions. The projects I've shown you were areas where we had a problem within our sewage system, and we needed we had the possibility to increase the sewer or to do a project to retain the water somewhere else and to keep it somewhere else, like the sports facility. I think it's a good example for that. And there Hamburg Wasser was the active part to talk to the different stakeholders in the city and to ask them if for a cooperation. And then for the financing, it was there that we provided or we financed all the water management parts, and the other parts were financed by the authority for sports facilities. But it was a close cooperation, and we had an agreement how it will be maintained, for example, as well. Sometimes we need to find some solutions, and sometimes it's the other way around. What we are doing now is that we are using the stormwater map to find places where we can implement examples like that too, and have more examples to do that. And what was the third one? Can you
maybe I was about to ask that can this public work investment help to promote comprehensive community-based knowledge or outcomes? So how do you promote this kind of investments to the communities or citizens living around this area? And
I think the schools are a good example. So we have some stakeholders, some persons in the authority which is responsible for the school buildings and the schoolyards, and they are now coming to us and tell us, yeah, we have a new schoolyard and we want to disconnect it. Can you help us? And therefore we have a really small fund which helps to jump over or to do this step, which needs sometimes only a little amount of money, but it helps to do this implementation because they usually don't have so much money to improve the schoolyards. And then we have the possibility to disconnect these areas. And I think this is a good example. And then we have a program at Hamburg Wasser which called the Entsiegler, also the DCler, and there the students are able to think about their schoolyards and to improve the situation and think about an improvement there. And now I think we have one project which is quite at the start, which maybe will be a result of these workshops, and hopefully it will work. That would be quite nice. Yeah.
thanks. Thanks, Anya.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I just see that we're running down on time, and I would like very much to ask the question to some of our partners and friends in Southeast Asia and in Indonesia and Cambodia, if they have any questions and or if they see any type of relationship or how relevant these types of solutions are in their own cities. So I would very much like to hear from our friends there in Southeast Asia. And I remember speaking to Bobby in Sleeman. Bobby, if you're available to comment on that, I know it's a short notice, but yeah, the floor is yours. We can't hear you. Unmute.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you for the opportunity. It was a great presentation. But perhaps I have some questions. Maybe just straightforward to the question. In order to implement the RISA program, how to, the WASSER Hamburg provide the land availability? Is it provided by the government or by the private sector? Because he said that it is the the land is lacking for the implementation of sponge elements. So how to provide the land availability? And the second, maybe how the you said that the RISA is a multi-stakeholder approach and a cross-sectoral integration, and so that so many interests in there. So how to overcome the multi-interest from the multi-stakeholder in this project? Thank you.
I think thank you for your question. It's quite interesting. I think the multi-stakeholder approach is the most important thing that you are over. It's a process. So it's a process of discussion and how to meet everybody's goals. So every stakeholder has its own have their own interests, and they need to be met somehow. So when we have a multifunctional area for a playground, we have to think about security, for safety for the children, that nobody is able to drown there, for example, during a heavy rain event. And these are things that need to be discussed. We started with with public authorities because they are responsible for these areas. And what's the most important thing is we have green spaces in Hamburg. We have many green spaces. Almost half of the city is green space. But due to the housing strategy of Hamburg, it's decreasing. So we have the pressure on the green spaces, and they needed to be provided for the public, that it can be used as open space for leisure and recreation, but it also can be used for rainwater management to keep the water during heavy rainfalls, because usually when it rains, people don't go to open spaces. So you can use them for this part of the time. What we are trying is to motivate the private people as well to keep their water on the ground. There are some legislative possibilities when they have new buildings to only allow them to a special amount of runoff, for example. And we have an agency which helps the private plot owners to improve their situation on their own plots. So that is not, Hamburg Wasser is not doing that, but we have a cooperation with them, and they are helping them, and they're helping to read them to the stormwater map, for example, so they can then find some measures on their own plots. And I think that is very helpful, and it will be a growing part of our cooperation.
Thank you very much. I see that we have now run over time, but we had another question from Umut in the University of Kassel. Umut, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. I also want to say thank you, Dr. Schlipf, for her presentation. It was very insightful. And I was wondering, I have been visits in last months Hamburg several times, and was actually there for another research project, and I was visiting new housing development areas, and it really one could recognize these retention areas like used also for for example, like playgrounds and small parks. And I was wondering, are you also involved if any new housing development proposed, even by also constructed by private sector or private companies? Are you involved in terms of that detail or kind of negotiation in terms of keeping the retention areas free?
Yeah, sometimes, but it's not our part. So the stake is there on the environmental agency and the environmental authority, which needs to confirm these projects. So they have a look on that, and they confirm the consents. And I think this is quite of success now, that every urban planning development area is proof now for stormwater management, and you can see it now in that there's several urban developments that it mostly works, not everywhere, but it works. So I think we have there a good tool. And this is part of the cooperation between Hamburg Wasser and the environmental authority, but there the stake is on the environmental authority, not ours. I think comment it sometimes, but
yeah, I think you can score this as a very big success if another entity is kind of adapting the same vision or same strategy. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks, Umut. So we've run over time, but I guess I would be happy if Dr. Schlipf would be happy to take one more question. And if I don't see any hands raised, then I would move to end the presentation and call and Thursday talk, PolyUrbWaters. So thank you very, very much for joining from everyone from all parts of the world. I think there's a lot of food for thought there for our partners and for ourselves in our own context, our own countries and cities. Certainly, I think, trying these types of ideas out can start at a very, very local level, your own plot, as we saw today. To understand, how things actually work. And if you try, beginning of this year, I tried to set up on my own, in my own apartment, a rainwater harvesting, which I know here in Germany is quite typical. But I was absolutely amazed to see within 5 minutes, I had over 300 liters of water running off the roof, and it's only a part of the roof. So that for me was a big sort of learning curve, quick learning curve. And of course, it's not very easy to move a 300-liter water rain tank away from a wall where it can cause damage if it overflows. So I had a very important learning experience there in stormwater management and my own plot. So I think everyone could probably reflect about the different ways water works in their own plots and suburbs and neighborhoods, and start to recognize and see these types of solutions or possibilities and options that they might be. I guess in some places they're simpler to implement than others, and some places they might cost more and be more difficult for management and operation and management, but that I guess is another completely different section of discussion. In any case, we will then be putting this Dr. Schlipf's presentation online and the recording online on our site at PolyUrbWaters. And I guess if there are no more comments or questions, remarks, then we can say goodbye. And thank you again, Dr. Schlipf. It was a real pleasure to have you here with us and give us this insight in Hamburg and find the different connections to the different countries. Thank you very much for your questions and interesting discussion. And yeah, I look forward to seeing everyone again and keep the network going. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a pleasure for me too. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.